In 2001, Megaman X5 was released in order to close out the X series. But instead of letting the X series die out at X5, and let Keiji Inafune work on the Mega Man Zero series, with the first one slated for release a year later, Capcom decided to release the final Mega Man X game on the PlayStation, Mega Man X6, in November of 2001, without Keiji Inafune's permission. Needless to say, Keiji Inafune was not happy with this decision, since now he had to rework the story of Mega Man Zero or else it wouldn't make any sense. So was this sixth installment worth screwing over the guy who created Mega Man? Let's find out. Spoilers ahead. The first thing you'll notice is that this game takes place 3 weeks after X5 instead of 3 years. Another change that was made to X5's story is that the Earth's surface was left badly damaged by the Eurasia colony. So this story came as a result of combining the good and bad endings of X5. In other words, they both saved and didn't save the planet. Why combine both endings? Parts of the colony still crash into the planet in the good endings, so why combine it? It doesn't make any sense! We're less than 5 minutes into this game, and already this story is beginning to piss me off! So because of the crash, humans are forced to live underground to survive from the pollution. Hey, as long as I don't find a robot head and a drill to power it, I'm good. Actually, I take that back. That sounds way more interesting than playing this game. I'm gonna go watch that instead. Oh man, that was great. I should probably finish that review, shouldn't I? At the crash site, a Reploid discovers a piece of the colony and picks it up. This Reploid is named Gate, and he will be our main antagonist of the story. I actually like Gate as a villain. It might be because it's refreshing to see a bad guy in the Mega Man series that's not Wily or Sigma, but Gate genuinely impressed me. He's pretty smart, pretty powerful, and is overall a pretty threatening villain, creating the Nightmare virus and even creating a clone of Zero known as the Zero Nightmare. Sure, his plans are a bit generic and his moments of insanity do make me groan, but I still like Gate as a villain, even if he's discarded near the end of the game, but I'll get to that in a bit. There's also voice acting for the cutscenes, but in the X collection they are removed, and this is another thing I didn't like about the game. The way that they handled the English version of X6 is very poor. The voice acting in this game is from the original Japanese version. They didn't even hire English voice actors to do the lines. That is so lazy! I know I gave X4 some flack on the voice acting, but at least they had English voice actors. Speaking of lazy, they also did a poor job translating the text in the game. I'm sure some of you know of the infamous "I hid myself to repair myself" line, and that just screams laziness in the department that translated the game. But before this turns into a rant, let's move on. One thing I will give this game credit for is fixing the issues I had with Alia. Instead of her interrupting the game to give you useless advice, you can now listen to her advice in the stages by pressing the C button on the X collection. This is a really good feature because if you don't want to listen to what Alia has to say, like me, you can just play the stage normally and not be interrupted by Alia every few minutes. Though there are a couple of moments where she will interrupt, but with those cases she does give useful advice to you, so I don't mind that as much. What I'm not a fan of is what they did to X. Although he gets to keep his Falcon armor, X6 decided to mess this armor up by shortening how long X can dash when this armor is equipped. Why? That was probably one of the only good things I liked about the Falcon armor, and you take it away? That's bullshit! But it gets worse. If you remember the ending to X5, X keeps Zero's Z-Saber and uses it to fight the Mavericks. X does get to use the Z-Saber in this game, and at first I was excited to use it. I loved playing as Zero in the previous games, and since X was powerful with a Buster, I thought he would be just as powerful with the Saber. But then I started to use it, and I immediately regretted it. First off, X's sword slashes are much slower than Zero's. If you're in a situation where there are enemies swarming you, and you have to use the Z-Saber to kill them quickly, you're taking a hit, because X swings it so slowly. On top of that, X's sword slashes are actually weaker than Zero's. If you're gonna give us a weapon as kick-ass as the Z-Saber, and nerf it like this, what's the point in using it? During my playthroughs of the game, I hardly used this weapon when I was playing as X, unless it was absolutely necessary, because this weapon didn't help me out one bit! But aside from that, you beat the first boss and get introduced to the Zero Nightmare for a bit, before another Reploid appears and fights you. His name is Hymax, and spoiler alert, you can't beat him. That's right, he's a forced loss battle. Yay! After a while, Hymax retreats and we're introduced to another new character, Isaac, who claims that the Zero Nightmare is responsible for all the chaos affecting the world. You know, this guy would make a great reporter for Fox News. Anyways, he sends 8 Reploids to investigate the areas affected by the Nightmare virus, and shock of all shocks, they turn into Mavericks. So it's up to X to stop the virus, destroy the Mavericks, and save the world. Same old shit. The Maverick stages this time around are just okay. Nothing too spectacular about them. They're just okay stages to go through. Same goes for the Mavericks. While I do like Mavericks such as Blizzard Wolfang and Infinity Maginian, other Mavericks like Shield Sheldon and Metal Shark Player are Mavericks that I want to throw in the recycling bin. Stupid shark! It's moments like these that make me want to throw my controller across the room, and it gets even worse if the Nightmare virus is in the stage selected. Sometimes when you select a stage, the photo of the Maverick will turn red. This color is pretty accurate because these stages make my blood boil. When you go through these stages, you will come across abnormal events that your navigator, Alia, can't detect, further proving how useless she is. Here's an example. In Commander Yanmark's stage, there are certain areas that will be engulfed in darkness, and you can barely see the stage. This is friggin' bullshit. These effects add unfair difficulty to a game that already has difficulty settings on the start screen. You can make the experience easier or harder for yourself already. Adding in these effects is just overkill. Speaking of overkill, let's talk about the Reploids you have to rescue. Throughout the stages are various Reploids that you have to save, and if they get infected by the Nightmare virus, they will turn Maverick. Trust me, you do not want this to happen because they contain a part that you need. Yes, folks, the part system from X5 makes a return, but now you collect the parts from the Reploids instead of getting them as a reward for beating the stage. But unlike X5, where you could probably go through the game without equipping a single part, X6 pretty much forces you to use certain parts in order to have a chance in certain stages, especially with the jumper part. If you can't save the Reploid who has this part in time, he will get infected, and you will be boned if you're playing as X, because the first level of Gates Lab has a high wall of spikes that you can only get past if you equip the jumper part. But, if I can give a positive to the part system, I will say that you can equip more parts than in the last game, even though the way to increase the amount is a little stupid. Throughout the levels, you run into robots that contain the Nightmare virus. By destroying them, you will sometimes get an orb that contains Nightmare Souls. The normal sized blue souls give you 8, the smaller ones give you 4, the green ones, which you get after beating a Maverick/secret boss, give you 200, and the red ones, which are given to you if you take too long to beat a Maverick, give you 100 Nightmare Souls. Depending on how many Nightmare Souls you have, you can equip more than 2 parts. Sure, it involves a lot of grinding, but I do appreciate that they at least give you more parts to equip than the last game. By the way, the Nightmare Souls also give you the opportunity to find out about Gate and Alia's story, so if you're interested in that, collect 5,000 Nightmare Souls. So you may be asking, how the hell do I get that many souls if there's only 8 Mavericks? Well, that's where the secret paths come in. Several stages have secret paths that allow you to fight secret bosses with various rewards. If you defeat High Max in the secret path, you get access to Gates Lab right away. If you defeat Nightmare Zero, you unlock Zero as a playable character, and his moveset hasn't changed that much, but I find that he's still more fun to play than X. However, certain secret paths will lead you to a boss battle with an old enemy, Dynamo. I don't know how he's still alive, but I don't care. He's back, and unlike the 8 Mavericks, he responds after you defeat him, making it a lot easier to grab 5,000 Nightmare Souls. See, if you use his weakness weapon against him, a green orb will appear. You can only get a maximum of 3 orbs during the fight, but that's still 600 Nightmare Souls, so I can't complain that much. Like last time, there are 2 armors that X can collect throughout the game, and like last time, you are forced to collect all 4 parts of the armor in order to use them. The blade armor isn't that bad, it's more focused on mobility again. As for the shadow armor, it's okay. I like the design, and it's pretty helpful in the first level of Gates Lab because it can cling to the ceilings, and it does increase the speed that X can swing the Z-Saber, but the Buster isn't that great. You can't air dash, making it useless in the second level of Gates Lab, and I never found it that useful when it came to fighting Mavericks. But one positive I can give to this game is that the music is kick-ass. A lot of the tracks contain the energy that I feel X5 lacked, and it has a nice variety of synthesized music, rock music, and metal songs that make me want to own this soundtrack. So after defeating the 8 Mavericks, it's time to take down Gate and the Nightmare virus, and holy crap are these stages hard! Not only do these stages have plenty of hits to kill spikes, including a set of wall spikes I bitched about earlier, but it also has fire that kills you instantly, a crap ton of lasers, the friggin' nightmare effects. It's a goddamn mess! I got game over so many times in these stages, it's not even funny. The boss fights aren't that much easier. The fight against the Nightmare Mother, a creature covered in goo, is probably the hardest of the 4 bosses because of how fast the creature is. There are 2 enemies you have to deal with instead of just 1. Its weak points are all over the place since it could come out of any of the Nightmare Mother's sides, and sometimes when the weak point pops out, you can't even reach it, meaning that you have to wait until it retreats inside the Nightmare Mother, dodge its charges, and then pray that the weak spot will appear in a spot that you can reach. The next boss is Hymax, who I think is a much better boss than the Nightmare Mother. You were defeated by him in the intro stage, so now that you have gotten stronger throughout the course of the game, it's very satisfying to take him down. Finally, it's time to take down Gate, who reveals earlier on that the part he picked up at the beginning of the game was a piece of Zero that he has nearly decrypted. He has used that piece to create the Nightmare virus and the Zero Nightmare, causing the deaths of many Reploids, and now it's time to kick his ass. Unlike other boss fights, hitting him with the X-Buster/Z-Saber won't do any damage to Gate. Instead, you have to destroy these orbs that Gate summons, and the after effects of said orbs will hurt him. On top of avoiding these orbs, you also have to deal with the bottomless pit, as well as waiting for Gate to throw the orbs at you. This is a boss fight that tries my patience really quickly, and even though his music and design are good, this boss fight goes on for way too long, and he is so annoying to take down. But at least once you beat him, you can finally go home, right? Right? Are you freaking kidding me? What kind of horseshit is this? You killed Sigma off in the last game. Why is he here when you already had Gate as a villain for 90% of the game? Sigma didn't even help Gate one bit, so why is he here? It's like during the development of this game, they realized that Sigma wasn't in it and decided at the last friggin' minute to put him in there with no real explanation other than Gate rebuilt him, even though he was obliterated by Zero and X5's ending. He's not even completely fixed. He speaks in broken English, and he doesn't even add much to the story. But hey, maybe the fight against Sigma could make this rush climax worth it. Nope. It's at this point where they decide to give you a little break and make Sigma an easy final boss. His first form is absolutely pathetic. He has attacks that are painfully easy to dodge. He just walks towards you like a walker, and it's really short. It makes me question the point of this phase, considering how quickly you can be taken down in. This is a complete joke compared to previous Sigma bosses. What the hell, Capcom? Phase 2 may have good music, but that does not excuse how shitty this boss fight is. The design is friggin' awful, his attacks are very predictable, his enemies drop health pellets, making this fight even easier, and once again, this fight is really short and so anticlimactic. This is hands down my least favorite Sigma battle in the X series. At least in the other games, Sigma had more of an importance to the story, and as a result, it made it more satisfying to take him down. This version of Sigma is rushed, so there's no purpose to the plot, and even taking him down doesn't feel satisfying. So after defeating Sigma as either Zero or X, you get their respective endings. X rescues Gate and Aelia plans to rebuild him, while Zero is put into suspended animation for 100 years because he wants to remove a certain component in his body, probably the Maverick virus. This ending kickstarts the events of the Mega Man Zero series and is the supposed ending to the entire X series. And as an ending, it friggin' sucks. Mega Man X6 is not that great. While I will admit that X6 has good music, a good villain, and some decent Mavericks, the game suffers from terrible level design, bland Mavericks, a very bad story, and is overall not fun to play. In all honesty, Capcom should have just left the X series alone because this game is a prime example of how not to do a video game sequel. This is one game that I never want to play through ever again. Well, that game made me feel like shit, so I'm gonna go watch something to put me in a better mood. So tune in next time where I'll be reviewing a Power Rangers Christmas special. Which one will it be? Well, all I can tell you is that when that video gets released, it's morphin' time.